The broadcast began without warning. Screens across the galaxy flickered and froze, hijacked from entertainment feeds and political programming alike. A low hum filled the air before an image materialized. A girl, no older than 16, shackled and bruised, standing in the center of a sterile execution chamber. Her brown hair hung in matted clumps over a tattered school uniform. A beam of harsh white light carved her out from the shadows, exposing every tremor of fear in her frame. Behind her stood 3 galactic soldiers, towering insectoids in obsidian armor, their compound eyes unblinking, unreadable. The tallest among them held a plasma lance, its tip humming with deadly charge. A voice, artificial and cold, began translating across hundreds of tongues. Elena Mercer, human, charged with espionage, incitement of unrest, and illegal planetary access. Sentence, public execution. Effective immediately. There was no trial, no plea. Only a moment's pause as the girl lifted her head and looked directly into the lens. Her eyes, violet and defiant through the fear, locked onto the galaxy. "My name is Elena," she said. "My father will come." A metallic gauntlet struck her across the face, and she staggered. Somewhere, across 1,000 systems, people gasped, wept, or watched in silence. In a dim-lit bar on the orbiting ring of Calandra Prime, a human merchant dropped his glass. On a mining rig in the outer belts of Mardun 6, a half-deaf engineer stopped breathing. On Earth, in a command bunker buried beneath layers of reinforced stone, the President of the United Terran Nations stood motionless, his hand tightening into a fist. She was not a soldier, not a threat, just a girl with a sketchpad, caught documenting alien architecture on a restricted world. The charges were fabricated, everyone knew it, but the galactic powers had grown bolder in their disdain for humanity. To them, this was not a crime. It was a message. Elena's knees buckled as they forced her to the center of the platform. The lance was powered, primed. A final moment stretched like the skin of a drum. She tried to speak again, maybe a name, maybe a plea, but no sound came. And then the plasma struck. Her body jolted, limbs spasming as the lance drove through her chest. The glow lit her from within, a horrific burst of color against the sterile walls. Then she collapsed, a small, broken figure in a pool of silence. The broadcast cut to black. The galaxy held its breath. Some dismissed it as another unfortunate incident, collateral in the tense human-alien politic. Others, especially among the old coalition species, approved quietly. To them, humans were reckless, emotional, and unpredictable, a species more suited to war than peace. The fewer humans, the better. But in the quiet corners of space, where whispers carried weight, people were already talking. They executed Mercer's daughter. That Elena? Gods help them all. The name moved like static through the void, Mercer. Most had heard the stories. John Mercer had been many things. Special Operations Commander, infiltration expert, architect of 3 covert wars. Disappeared 5 years ago after a mission went black. Some said he died. Others claimed he'd gone rogue, turned into something the military couldn't control or contain. Now the daughter he kept hidden, the one bright thing left in his shadowed world, had been killed. Publicly. Deliberately. Back in the broadcast chamber, the air was silent but tense. The soldiers stood over her body, rigid. The command officer turned to leave, his claw tapping against the console to end the session. He didn't notice the junior technician step away from her post, hand trembling as she sent out an encrypted ping. It wasn't much. Just a location, a timestamp, a silent scream into the black. Exactly 7 minutes later, a ship dropped out of FTL on the edge of the system. It bore no official insignia. It broadcast no identification codes. It was sleek, black as a void rift, and bristled with unregistered tech. Those who saw it didn't know what to call it, a hunter, a wraith, a ghost. And aboard it, standing in silence as the last image of his daughter's execution replayed on loop, was a man. His eyes, steel gray and absent of tears, reflected only the screen. One hand rested on the hilt of a combat blade worn smooth from years of use. His other hand clenched slowly, rhythmically, like he was remembering how to feel. When the image finally cut to black, John Mercer turned to the console. The ship's AI flickered to life, awaiting command. "Destination?" it asked. Mercer's voice was low, lethal, and steady. "Take me to them." The ship turned toward the planet, silent as death. Below, in the execution chamber, the body of Elena Mercer still lay untouched, the blood beneath her drying fast. And above her, in the sky growing darker by the second, judgment had already begun its descent. The garrison's early warning systems never triggered. It began with the lights flickering, a brief stutter, dismissed by the technicians as a routine power surge. Then the external cameras went dark. No warning, no alert. Just black screens and a spreading hush across the control center. Lieutenant Creel, the senior officer on duty, turned toward his second-in-command. "Diagnostics." "No fault," the smaller alien muttered, checking the panels. "Everything reads normal, but the feed." The ceiling collapsed. From the ruptured skylight descended a figure wrapped in shadows and steel. Armor dark as obsidian molded to a human form, precise, fluid, lethal. Smoke trailed from the breached hull above as fragments rained to the floor. The figure moved before anyone could shout. A rifle snapped into position. 3 rounds, not bullets but focused kinetic darts, tore through the nearest guards with surgical efficiency. Another dropped as a blade flashed, thrown with inhuman precision across the room. No words. No mercy. By the time Creel reached for his sidearm, the barrel of a silenced pistol was already pressed between his eyes. The trigger clicked. Silence followed. John Mercer didn't pause to look at the bodies. He stepped over them, eyes scanning the room like a machine, calculating, measuring. The ship had delivered him less than 100 meters from the execution chamber. The data packet he intercepted during the broadcast had been enough. Hallways blurred past as he moved, low to the ground, always advancing ghost-like. Every camera on the floor had already been looped or disabled. Every door overridden. He didn't leave evidence. He didn't need to. The soldiers that met him in the next corridor died just as fast. One reached for an alarm, only for Mercer to shoot through the panel first, shattering it, then pivot to end the guard with a single silent shot to the head. He had spent years studying alien combat physiology, the way they moved, their blind spots, their flaws. Now every movement was artful violence. A sidestep here, a twist of the wrist there, each kill a silent act of calculated vengeance. And yet, behind every action, his mind burned with a single image. Her. He remembered her laugh echoing through mountain cabins in the northern wilds of Earth. Her stubborn pride when she painted alien worlds from memory. Her voice, cracking through tears, telling him, "Don't ever disappear on me again, Dad." He hadn't. Not really. He'd stayed hidden to keep her safe. And now she was gone. The doors to the chamber hissed open, revealing the place he had seen too many times on the looped broadcast. Cold. White. Surgical. The floor still bore the faint stain where her body had fallen. She was there. Slumped against the far wall, shackles still clamped around her wrists. Her eyes stared blankly upward. The wound on her chest had stopped glowing, now a dark mark on pale skin. John walked to her slowly. The gun in his hand hung limp at his side. He knelt. For a moment, the killer vanished. What remained was just a father, broken, kneeling at the feet of something he couldn't protect. He reached forward and brushed the hair from her face, fingers trembling now. "I'm here," he whispered. "I'm sorry I was late." She didn't move. Couldn't. But in his mind, she still hummed songs in the garden while pretending not to wait for him to return. He unfastened the pendant from his neck, a small, rusted piece of earth steel carved into the shape of a crescent, and placed it gently on her chest. It had been hers once, given back to him the night before he vanished into Black Ops purgatory. A promise to return. She'd kept it safe. Now it would stay with her. He rose, every movement deliberate, and crossed the chamber to the control panel. His fingers danced across alien glyphs and human override. The transmission system crackled, awakening. The same network that had displayed her execution now shimmered to life again, blinking in outposts, homes, and warships across the stars. The feed stabilized. It showed her body first, lifeless, undeniable. Then it showed him, unmasked, gray-eyed, staring into the camera with a fury colder than space itself. "This was my daughter," he said. The words were not shouted. They were delivered with eerie calm, steady as a countdown. She was unarmed, peaceful, a civilian. "You killed her while she was still a child." He leaned closer. "You have 7 days. Not to apologize. Not to offer reparations. 7 days to prepare. Because I am coming for every last one of you who let this happen. Every hand that signed her death, every voice that stayed silent." The feed cut before anyone could trace it. Across the galaxy, alarms began to wail. Diplomatic channels lit up. Military analysts reviewed footage, comparing the voice and face to old classified files. The name resurfaced: Mercer John. Former commander. Presumed dead. Confirmed vengeful. But no one, not even the oldest soldiers, could grasp the scale of what had just been unleashed. Back in the chamber, Mercer knelt once more, kissed his daughter's forehead, then rose without another word. He stepped into the corridor, blades and guns rearmed. And behind him, the room remained silent, save for a flickering overhead light. His war had just begun. The first target fell before the Council could finish their emergency session. Outpost Theta 6, a fortified relay station orbiting the planet Veruin, ceased transmission precisely 12 hours after Mercer's broadcast. It didn't explode. It didn't suffer a reactor breach. It simply stopped existing. The only survivor, a technician too green to be on duty, was found drifting in a cargo pod, lungs trembling with panic and radiation scars across his skin. All he said before collapsing into a coma was, "He walked through the walls." At first, the Galactic Coalition believed it was a bluff, a show of fear-mongering meant to force concessions. But as the hours ticked on, more stations went dark. Tactical posts, tribunal outposts, black sites no one was supposed to know existed. And at each one, someone lived. Just one. Always one. They carried the same message, engraved into their flesh, burned into the walls, or whispered through ruptured lips. For Elena. Within days, panic bled through the polished walls of the Galactic Council chambers. Meetings turned into shouting matches. Some demanded retaliatory strikes on Earth, others called for immediate surrender. A few simply left, resigning their seats with trembling hands and hollow stares. A chitin-skinned diplomat from the Vraxi species tapped his mandibles against the polished stone table, voice buzzing low and cold. "You executed a human girl. A child. Her father was a weapon. Now you've given that weapon purpose." Across from him, the Council's High Minister, a lizard-like being bred for calculated order, scoffed. "He's one man." "No," came the reply. "He's human." That word carried new weight now, one earned not through treaties or bureaucracy, but through fire and vengeance. The kind of weight only blood can buy. On Earth, the United Terran Nations offered no response. No formal statement. No attempt to recall Mercer. A news feed leaked a closed-door quote from the Terran president, spoken during a private briefing. "He's not acting on our behalf. But we understand." Behind closed doors, human colonies lit candles. Not for war. For a girl. For Elena. And far away, John Mercer moved like a whisper between systems. He no longer needed to infiltrate. Doors opened before him, not in fear, but with quiet understanding. Smugglers gave him coordinate. Refugees offered food, water, silence. Even some alien civilians, disturbed by the cruelty of the girl's execution, lowered their eyes when he passed. But there were still those who stood in his way. Mercenary bands. private security firms, coalition strike teams. None survived. He left no monologues, no last-minute threat. Only wreckage and echoes. Yet not everything he destroyed was physical. On the planet Jorix, he released a classified video showing the Council's internal deliberations leading up to Elena's execution. It proved her innocence. It showed her captors laughing. It exposed how her death was political theater, a demonstration of power meant to intimidate Earth. The galaxy turned. Outrage erupted from unexpected places. Peaceful protests ignited across mixed-species settlement. A statue of a coalition officer was pulled down on Turvan 4, toppled not by humans, but by Vreli students holding candles and signs that read, "She was a child." In one recording, a child barely 5 years old spoke to a news drone, her eyes wide and solemn. "My father said the girl was brave. He said she looked into the camera so her dad could find her. I think he did." Even in death, Elena's face had become a spark. But sparks ignite wildfires. The coalition tried to rally its fleet, tried to centralize power, tried to spin the narrative. But every station they secured was already marked. Not by explosives, but by silence, an empty chair, a red smear, a message carved in steel. You made this personal. John Mercer's war was not one of territory. He didn't raise flags or demand surrender. He was retribution. A shadow cast by every cruelty they had justified, every life dismissed as insignificant. Still, he never forgot her. Every night, if nights even existed in his ship's silent drift, he played the same file. Elena's voice, singing off-key through a filter of static. The last message she'd sent him before they took her. Half a lullaby, half a joke. He never cried. He never smiled. He just listened. And planned the next target. The final scene of his latest strike played across private screens and encrypted servers, never officially broadcast, yet seen by billions. A single corridor filled with the bodies of executioners. Mercer walked through, blood trailing from his boots, and paused at a wall where someone had painted a crude, trembling image, a girl holding a flower. He stopped, touched it, then kept walking. Some say that was the last anyone ever saw of him. Others claim he's still out there, dismantling the machine that killed his daughter one bolt at a time. They say when he's done, there won't be a single stone of the old order left standing. But no matter what story you believe, one truth echoes through every ship, every station, every child's bedtime tale. You don't kill a human's child. Not unless you're ready for the storm that follows. The remnants of the Council met beneath the crust of Telner Station, hidden beneath layers of security and fear. What had once been a room of arrogance and dominion now stank of desperation. Holoscreens flickered with red-marked systems. Dozens of black sites, intelligence posts, elite command bunkers. Gone. Not defeated. Erased. He's targeting only those directly involved, hissed Administrator Vol, his mandibles twitching. This isn't indiscriminate warfare. It's surgical. Purposeful. That makes it worse, said Minister Dren, her scaled face pale with dread. He knows exactly what he's doing. He remembers every name. He can't keep this up, another snapped. He's one man. He was trained to fight entire insurgencies alone, Vol said grimly. He's not fighting us. He's dismantling us. At the far end of the chamber, the final surviving architect of Elena Mercer's execution sat in silence. Director Luthen wore ceremonial robes of judicial command, though his hands trembled inside the sleeves. Once a figure of legal terror, now he looked small. Hunted. Find him, he said, his voice a thin echo. I want his head. But no one moved. Because the truth, unspoken yet inescapable, had crept into every mind at that table. Mercer wasn't just coming. He was already here. In the maintenance duct above the chamber, motionless beneath a heat-dampening cloak, Mercer waited. He didn't rush. Each breath was calculated, slow. Each heartbeat a metronome of focus. He watched them through a slit in the vent, memorizing voices, posture, tone. These were the ones. The final ones. The roots of the tree that had hanged his daughter. He hadn't come for revenge anymore. Revenge ended when her body turned cold. This was something else. Something colder, more patient. Justice. He dropped silently behind the last guard, a whisper of movement. The man collapsed with a dart to the neck before he could scream. Mercer moved like vapor, no sound, no hesitation, until he stood behind the doors of the chamber. A final breath. Then he stepped inside. The council leapt to their feet, too late. By the time the alarm screamed, the room was sealed. Mercer stood alone before them. No mask, no voice modulator. Just a man. And they knew. Instinctively. As prey know the shadow before the strike. Luthen tried to speak. "Mercer, please." "I watched her die," Mercer said, quiet, clear. "Not once. Hundreds of times. I memorized every frame. The way she looked into the camera. How her lips trembled. The exact angle her body fell." He stepped forward. No one dared move. "She wasn't an accident. She was a message. You wanted us to know our place." He paused. Tilted his head. "This is mine." The first shot struck Minister Dren in the chest. Non-lethal, but paralyzing. She crumpled. 2 more followed. Vul reached for a concealed weapon. Mercer's blade silenced him before it cleared its holster. Another body. Another name crossed off the list. When it was just Luthen left, Mercer lowered his weapons. "I want you to understand," he said, voice suddenly colder, almost tired. "You didn't just kill my daughter. You built the machine that made her death inevitable. You created a system where no one is accountable. Where children become threats, and silence becomes policy." Luthen backed away until his back hit the curved wall. "I was following procedure." Mercer pulled a data slate from his belt. On it, a still frame from the execution video. Elena, staring at the camera, moments before the lance ignited. "She knew I'd come. She believed in me. That belief is the only reason you're still alive." He tossed the slate to the floor. "Now you get to live with that." Luthen stared, confusion breaking through the fear. "You're letting me go?" Mercer didn't respond. He turned and walked toward the sealed exit. With a few taps on his wrist console, it hissed open. He paused at the threshold. "No one will remember your laws," he said without turning. "But they'll remember her." Then he was gone. The door sealed behind him. Luthen collapsed, gasping, surrounded by the fallen. The broadcast that followed was the last Mercer ever sent. It wasn't violent. It wasn't even angry. It was a simple compilation, short clips from Elena's life. Her singing badly at age 7. Her drawings of planets she'd never visited. Her laughing during a snowfall on Earth. Then a single line of text. She was worth remembering. The galaxy, fractured and trembling, took a breath it hadn't realized it had been holding. Mercer vanished. Some say he left the galaxy. Others believe he returned to Earth and now walks among the trees near her grave. A few claim he still hunts in the dark corners, keeping powerful men awake at night. But in time, memorials were built. Not to soldiers. Not to council leaders. To her. A girl who died alone in a white chamber. And to a father who refused to let the galaxy forget.